Okay, so welcome to everyone to today's session of the Enterprise Corner, where we'll be talking about building companies to last. Why we need to make sure that we need to build companies and make them able to last. Um, and we're going to be focusing a lot on the lessons from Built to Last. It's a book I advise almost every entrepreneur to read through. Jim Collins has got a very good set of books for building the right companies and what's the essence. He's got two very good books, Good to Great, and we will talk about the journey from going from good to great as a company. But today we're talking about building something to last and how it should actually, what you should have in mind when you're building something great. Because I think most people who are entrepreneurs have got aspirations. And we're also going to be talking about it now from our personal experiences and also what we should see in our country, because the growth of our nation, the prosperity of our nation is off the backs of the greatness of our entrepreneurs and the longevity of the businesses they create. So I'd like to welcome everyone here to the Enterprise Corner. Please put down your thoughts on what your expectations are. I'm going to put the book that we'll be referencing today in the comment section. As we put it here, Built to Last by Jim Collins. And for everybody, if you have read it, please go and reread it. It's always good to read things over and over again. And that's what we will be talking about going forward. But it's not only from this book, but it's just generally from the concept of building things to last. So I'd like to welcome everyone. Shadrach, hope you've had a wonderful week as we're heading towards the second last month. We've entered into the second last month of the year. We've got 8 more weeks before we close out this year and we go into 2023. It's been a battle, people, but it's been a good battle. I think we've all worked on things. Shadrach, how are you doing, my brother?
I'm fantastic, Nyumba. It's good to see you. Are you all right?
I'm fantastic. I can't even stress that word, fantastic. Feels great. And Kenny will be joining us. Kenny is like, I always count Kenny as the Holy Spirit. He'll come when he has to. He will arrive. He will float in when he has to and float out when he has to. That's
Kenny
how he
is.
Salesman.
He must be saying something right now.
He's got sales to do. And to everyone there, please give us your name. Give us your name, where you're joining us from. Share this with your friends. Tag them. I'm sure everybody needs to talk about this of what should we be doing in Zambia to build things that last. And the question we want to start off with, Kenny, want to start off with Shadrach, is why do Zambian companies seem to die with the owner? If the owner if the owner steps away, or if the owner dies, especially when the owner dies, why do people's companies die with the owners? What are your thoughts, Shadrach?
Yes, I think the reason why most of the companies die on the Zambian companies, especially because we don't think for something greater than ourselves.
Yeah.
We lack the strategic direction from inception. We go into business because we want to make some profits, make some money, buy some nice car, build a house, and then drink ourselves to death. That's the problem with most Zambian businesses. We have a lot of people that could have been great now here in Zambia. They made millions of kwachas. They made millions of dollars. But what happened? They focused so much more on making a name for themselves that they neglected the business that gave them the platform or the opportunity. So we don't build businesses that last a test of time, because in the first place we don't have that in mind when setting up a business. Our sole purpose for starting a business is simply to make money, buy a nice car, get married, have kids, send them to UK to school. Once the kids are done, we retire, go to the farm to live. So that has been the biggest issue. And I've always put this number on the way families are brought up. I think we're gonna get into that at a later stage. But in the meantime, I think we've not done well when it comes to strategic planning as a nation.
From what I'm hearing there, Shadrach, that's got to do with the lifestyle versus legacy mindset. That we have a
Yeah.
lifestyle mindset when it comes to building of businesses. It's the schools we want to send our kids to, the cars we want to buy, the neighborhoods we want to live in. And entrepreneurship is driven solely by, I'll show the people who thought I wouldn't amount to anything, as opposed to what change can I bring into society which matters, which means something. Kenny, we're having this conversation today about building businesses that last. And the question I'll throw at you is a conversation we were having earlier. Why do Zambian businesses die with the founder? If the founder dies, gone. We've seen Zambians who started insurance companies, the founder dies, vanished. We've seen Zambians who started firms, gone. Somebody starts a restaurant, that person gets sick, vanished. Business has vanished. What is it with the way we're building our businesses that we're not able to build them beyond the life of the entrepreneur? In other words, give us your thoughts, Ken. Your mic is on mute.
Hi guys. For starters, it's good to be back. Last week I was actually watching from the office. I had a very hectic week, actually, weekend last week, so I was unable to jump in. We had an event here at home, so it was very difficult to navigate through things. But anyway, this is something I think that has got a lot to do with our culture and the way we do, the way we are raised. Every single child seems to, they need to figure out their own future. They need to figure out stuff, you know. Our friends already seem to have a succession plan on everything. If it's job-wise, you find that if the father was a police officer, the child will also be a police officer, and the grandchild will be a police officer. So you find that policing is like a generational skill set that the family holds. And they've taken that culture even in business. For us, we come from a background where our parents used to have 7 children, and each child needed to figure out his future. The parent themselves was probably government employed. Now, when you look at it from a business perspective, you find that the father has this control over the wealth of the family, and he doesn't share his secrets. So as a result, and if you notice what is very popular with Africans, especially the parents who were wealthy in business, will have more than one wife. Very popular. Yeah. They have more than one wife. There'll be a wife this side. There's a guy, I read an article where a guy was saying, we always suspected our father had another family, only to discover that we were the other family. When he died.
Yeah, there's
from a business point of view, there hasn't been this mentorship thing going on, where if a parent has this enterprise, he will mentor his children to run different functions of the business until they take it over at a certain point. We've seen big businessmen with their big names crash financially, and also others will just die and their businesses will disappear. We're talking about people who literally own structures in Lusaka City. You know, they'll tell you this building is owned by this one man and his business. You get it? And after he's gone, no one knows. He can't even account for his assets. He's probably even got houses that he's bought and the family don't even know. So what I don't understand is the fact that we don't create this culture where there's a succession plan on the finances of the family. And I think that's where the challenge seems to be for most of those that are Zambian-owned businesses, because the moment the father dies, is what our friends from outside normally do. They protect their cash flows to a point whereby when they're running business, the cashier is the father. When he's not around, it's the son. When he's not around, it's the daughter. Never will they allow an employee to handle their finances. You really get that. So for me, it starts from that point to say we haven't created it and nurtured it for us to be able to have generational businesses.
You know, it's and it's not just generational businesses from the perspective of, it's not just generational businesses from the perspective maybe of parents getting involved in business. It's generational businesses from the perspective of we don't even have successors from our employees. the problem I've seen, I think, with a lot of businesses is because they're built on lifestyles. People trying to have certain lifestyles. Even the employees are not motivated because there's no mission. There's really no mission. It's just the money for the owner, and even employees are just there to make as much money as they can, or at least have a cash flow stream, have a job, so that they can go and feed their family. But they see nothing about trying to rise through this enterprise. Absent of the fact that we don't even involve our children. So it's sad to see that. Now, I wanted to talk about maybe some of the examples where we have seen this successfully done. I mean, there's plenty of examples in the Western world. Companies like Marriott Hotels, those global hotel branches, which you can see that was the parents, they handed it over to their son. Now, for the first time, they have a non-Marriott who's actually running the business. You've seen intergenerational handovers, even with outside of family, where Steve Jobs groomed Tim Cook to become who he is now. So there was that transition. At least we've got smooth transitions. In Zambia, unfortunately, it's the non, and for lack of better wording, people, it's the non-blacks who are doing this. I mean, we've seen Simerson, we've seen the successful handover from one generation, and I think Shadrach and I were talking about it earlier. We've seen the transition from Simerson. And he brought that to my attention when I asked, do we have any Black Zambian businesses where we've seen a handover from one generation to another? And I think we mentioned another. I was just trying to recall it. But I know that we haven't seen as many. We struggle. Rhodes Park School is another example of one of a generation of Black parents handing over a business to another. Chisha Folotia is a second generation of the business community of his family. That school was handed over. Then the most of the intergenerational businesses we've seen are from the Indian Zambian community. You'll see like Limbanda and Sons. Those are three generations of family who have run a business there. You'll see law firms, which are them. You'll see you'll see the manufacturing companies like the Musa family. That's multiple generations. Trade Kings is the best example of three generations of leadership where they've handed over and grown. So what I seem to see is that people say in Zambia you can't do it. I seem to differ with the fact that it's not that we can't do things, it's that we don't adopt the right culture to do things of that nature where there's intergenerational business handover. Now, some of us will cite black tax, sure, but even Indians have got some sort of social tax. They do. The Indian Zambians do. They help the people from amongst their society, but they also say, look, if you're able-bodied, I'll give you a business opportunity. And also, one of the things I've seen, Kenny Shadrach, is it's that statement that was said about Jewish people. When one Jewish person is making money, 5 Jewish people are making money. Same thing even with Indians. When one Indian is making money, just know that there's about 5 other businesses in the Indian community where they've attached opportunities. Now with us, it's make money in isolation so I can go and stunt and show off to you people on Friday so that I can be the buyer. I want to be the sponsor. I want to be the Ankondarama. And because of that mindset, that's what we end up doing. What is it, guys, that you can see the culture is prevalent, and they do it in Zambia? What is stopping the Black Zambian who's going into business, or have we already started, at least as a new generation, to start making that change? Shadrach, your thoughts?
I think what stops us in Zambia to build such businesses is also a lack of financial inclusion in homes. If you think about an Indian guy, an Indian man, when he begins to run his own business, his kids are going to know about business. I'm going to use myself as an example, but also I'm also going to talk about Simon Moore. You know, my father had restaurants, all right? So my father used to sell a lot of stuff. So when my father is at work, at times I would be at his restaurant, attending to clients. My older brother and I could go to the restaurant, attend to clients. So we knew how to talk to people at a very young age. Right. Sometimes when it's especially weekends, my brother and I would spend our time at the restaurant, seeing how the workers are serving people, how they are talking to people. I also had a depot where people used to come and store some things. So my older brother and I would be there all the time, seeing how things are happening. So we learned about money management at a very young age, how to talk to clients, things like that. So growing up for me, doing business also, when I look at mom Mom also has been into business almost all her entire life. She's only introduced me to cellular business in 2010, and up to since then I've been doing that business. So what helped me also somewhat to come and also love business, not just to depend on my qualifications, as also because of the brought up. I come from a family where both mom and dad were business minded. Right, mom has always been doing things. Right now, she runs a business where she sells stuff. She has different shops. All right. So at a young age, we're introduced to businesses. They are not very big businesses, but at least we had an idea of what it looked like to make money. Because I worked in a very remote environment, a restaurant. You can think about a restaurant. It's a very tiny place to work from. But from there, you get to talk to real people. You get to see how people are dealt with. And that's one thing I've also noticed with Mr. Simon Mwewa. This man has left a legacy behind. All right. Just today, I saw Mrs. Mwewa receiving some grant for CDF. She's the Widows Association of Zambia president. What does that tell you? She's quite advanced in age. All right, but she's still participating in economic affairs. All right, she still has an interest in running that Manchinchi garden. She's doing a business with her sons and things like that. So look at that family. People criticize Mr. Mwewa, the son to Mr. Simon Mwewa, so much. They say, you know what, your father left you what you have, so you cannot talk about us who are working hard. Man, did you want his father to leave his things for you? All right. And one thing we should be able to thank this man is that this man, like several other rich kids we've seen, this man has nurtured that business. He has seen it grow. He has worked tooth and nail to keep his father's legacy. He has opened a page in honor of his father's name. He keeps the family name alive. Those are the things we should be able to look at. But look at this man. And from the way this man is acting, is also inculcating that sense of responsibility into his children as well. If this man was to die today, believe it or not, one of his sons is going to take up that business and to still survive. So we criticize people that have things that were left to them by their parents. And a good example is Simon Mr. Stambala. He's been criticized left, right, and center as if he killed a person. All he has done is he has managed the business that his father left, and he has seen it grow. And just mind you guys, you may not really see how hard working this man has been. Maybe when their father died, the business wasn't even the way it is now. Right? So we have to appreciate people like that man who are doing the best they can to preserve their family legacy. We have that Simon Mwale market. Do you think it just came by accident? It's because of the influence this man has. All right? That's how that market has been named after his father. There's a lane, Simon Mwale, after his father. That's legacy. So instead of demonizing people who are running business families and moving them from one generation to another, we should ask them. When you have somebody like Simon, like Mr. Stambala, let me say Simon Mwale, why don't you go to him and ask him, sir, how have you managed to keep these things together? Because people fight when a dad dies. They leave things. The relatives come in. They fight. This one gets this one gets that. How did you manage to put everything together? How did you handle the internal pressure from family members so that you can learn from such a man? But what do? We criticize people we should be learning from. We are always criticizing those people instead of us asking them, sir, tell me how you've handled this issue. But we don't do that. So because we don't do that, you cannot build what you despise. When your father dies, you want your father to leave something. I'm going to tell you something. Many people, we work hard because we have kids. And if we were to die, would you leave your wealth to your neighbor's children? For what? All right. So there's nothing wrong if a father leaves his assets to his children. We as people should say, no, this is what I tell people, guys, and I'm going to just be honest. There's one man I talked to. He was telling me, you know what? This man is very fortunate. He has everything on a silver platter. His father left for him. I said, you know what? Your father should have done the same. Your father should have left some things for you, like Mr. Simon Moore did for his children. He was a loving husband and a loving dad. So what does he do? He works hard for his children to come and enjoy. So why should you criticize such a man? Have you seen? If your father today died and he left his things to your neighbor's children, would you be happy with your father, even in death? You'll be so sad. So I think we don't love growth, guys. We don't love discussing about learning from people who have made it. We love to criticize them. That has also contributed to not being able to build businesses that stand a test of time.
So it's true, and I'd like to add to everybody who throws that out: 70% of wealth handed over from one generation dies by the first generation. 90% of it vanishes by the third generation. Wealth rarely gets to a fourth generation. Okay, whether it's business, whether it's houses, how many houses have lasted 4 generations in a family? By the time the parent dies, that house is sold because there's no cohesion between the children. Okay,
Yeah.
already there's no cohesion. So if an asset survives the test of time, it's often a sign of cohesion amongst the children or an orderly succession. Okay, it's a sign that there was an actual orderly succession that took place. One, there was an asset built, there was an orderly succession, or there was cohesion between the family, and there's a vision that the family is continuing. I always give the example of the Trump family, where it started with Donald Trump's grandfather to his grandmother to his father and him, now his children. There has been an orderly transition of this thing between these children. Never even lived to see their, I don't think they saw their grandfather. They never met him. The grandfather died in fact, Donald Trump never even saw his grandfather. His grandfather died in 1918. So already, and he was only born in 1945. So there was already that transition that's been taking place between 4 generations. So that's something people should learn from, no matter how even people say, oh, but Trump got stuff from his father. But there's so many examples of people who squander what was given to them. In fact, the norm, actually, when your parent gives you something, is to squander it. Even Charlie Munger said, children who inherit things are likely to squander it. He said, that's why we just can't leave things to them. He said, there's no chance. You raise a child and you leave them something, they're most likely going to squander it anyway. So it's not even an advantage because it never lasts. Those people end up spending it. So the fact that he's building on it is something else. I just wanted to quickly talk about the oldest company in the world. The oldest company in the world, and we talked about this once, Kenny, I think we did it on one Enterprise Corner last year, is called Kongo Gumi. It's a construction company out of Japan, and they build Shinto temples and monasteries. They make about $100 million a year in revenue. Kongo Gumi has been around since the year 600, since 500, 600. Okay, we're talking about a company that's been around for so it's been around for 1,444 years, and it has had 43 members of the same family. What's it consistently running it? 43 CEOs coming out of the same family who have been running this company. It is still around today. It's a subsidiary of another, I think it was called Shinzo something, construction company in Japan. But the family, the Gumi family still exists. I mean, the Congo family, still exists. They've survived wars. Do you know in the year 1600s, there wasn't even an Africa. There wasn't even a Europe. Most of the countries that exist today didn't even have a name. Yet this company was still there. And it's still here today. That is the definition of built to last. Okay? Nothing. You know that there's nothing we can point at in this world that has survived longer than that company. And that is simply because there's orderly structure. But that is rare. To hear a company go 44 generations in the same family is absurd. We'd never even heard of this. So we're struggling with one generation of transition. But Kenny, and I know people will talk about this, but what is it? And Shadrach, you are 100% correct. We demonize that which gets right, so we can rarely learn. And people, I will say this, stop the hate, appreciate and learn. Okay? If you can learn from people, you can get something. But the moment you always have to hate and demonize everything, you're blocking yourself from ever learning anything from those people. So get out of that mindset and start getting into. But unfortunately, the people who are listening to this show and watching this show right now, they're the learners. Okay? The people who are watching right now are the learners. The concern is the people not learning, who are saying things are not happening. But Kenny, what aside from our hatred, our sheer hatred of people who may have done right, and I suspect, Shadrach, that it's got to do with the fact that we're bitter at our parents for not. Our bitterness at his father for leaving behind is actually our anger at our parents for not. That's what people are doing. And they're lashing out their anger at their own parents at this gentleman. That's what they're doing. So Kenny, what other cultural factors do you see as the factors that are actually hindering us from building that intergenerational transfer, such as your Zambeefs, your Congo Gumi, your Trade Kings, your Musas, your Dimbad. What is it? What are we missing that's not getting there?
There was a time I saw a video of a certain coach who had everybody lining up in a straight line, and he started asking questions about everyone's lives, depending on what their parents had done for them. And each time he asked a question, for instance, raise your hand, move forward if you reached grade 12, and people would make a step. Move forward if your parents paid for your college, and those that had their parents pay for their college. Move forward if your parents helped you get your first job. And there'll be people remaining behind, and a lot of those that were further ahead and were closer to the goal. And then he goes and says, you see, that's the head start that your parents have given you, okay, for you to get to a goal quicker than others, because others are having to come from behind. Because at the end of it all, what he asked them to do was run to the finish line based on their positions. And guess what? Obviously, the ones who were ahead got to the finish line fast. Now, he wanted everyone to appreciate the role that their parents played, the things that you and I are doing for our children, the schools that we're putting them through, the mentorship that we're trying to help them go through. Now, there are other people who don't believe in doing that for their children. I used to be at Rhodes Park Primary School. I witnessed the first funeral when Mr. Folotia died, and I also witnessed the funeral when Mrs. Folotia also died. I remember when Chisha Folotia came back to run the business. Bear in mind, Chisha doesn't sit at the business. He's left it to be run by other people. But look at how big. My class, we never even had what you call this? We never even had doors at the time. We moved to Subweni campus. I was in grade 3, I think, at the time. We never had doors. They were still constructing the place. So it was winter. And believe you me, you're in class with an open window. And to build it to where it is today, whenever I drive past Rhodes Park, I'm blown away to see double-story buildings and things like that. And look at what Chisha Folotia went ahead and did. He diversified the financial portfolio of the family business, even started a record label. Currently, I think he's doing something in farming. He's contributing to farming now. But the point is, he never got too comfortable with the monies from Rhodes Park. He also diversified. And whatever gains he made also meant there were gains for the family. He's there to ensure that everything is managed properly. So you can't say the whole entire business is his alone. I remember his brother and sister also working at that school at some point. Okay, why? Because it's a family business. And probably as a jump start before you actually get your own thing going. Yeah. But then you can offer that support, you can offer that counsel to the way the business is actually run. So now, it's sad that we have people who want to argue and fight those that are progressive. I woke up to a message today where someone was fighting me and saying they had a meeting with somebody who claims they know me very well, and my word is not good enough. And I called them and I said, look, I'm not going to explain myself, right? Seeing that this person claims to know me well, but I'm more concerned about you, who was the person I was talking to, because they had received a disappointing message that relates to me. You get it? So I felt sorry for them. I said, look, I haven't been in Solwezi for 2 years. So I don't know this person that believes to be my oxygen, who believes that if they cut the air that I breathe, I would die. Because that's how certain people.
All right, we've lost Kenny there. Okay.
I'm sure he'll return some point. But yeah, no, there is a culture of bitterness that we do unfortunately carry as a people. And this is why I keep saying that a lot of our problems as a nation boil down to the culture we practice. There is a bitterness and a hatred we carry towards one another, and unfortunately, it stops us from unifying, rallying behind each other, and building up one another in order to make the successful steps and strides that we need. I think Kenny has returned. Kenny, I think you can finish your point before we move on to the importance now of building into how to actually do this.
So what bothered me is that this person had an opinion about me and was talking to a person that I intend to do business with, and they were casting shades, right? Maybe they were having a light moment, they were having conversation, and the person mentioned my name, and they said, oh yeah, Ken, I know him. And then they decide to say something bad to kill the ability of me progressing in whatever business I have. So I get the benefit today of listening to the Mary Magdalene story in the Bible. Yeah, and this is something we need to be, especially that we're talking about a culture point of view. People got Mary, judged her, right, and took her to Jesus. As far as she was concerned, she was dead, because that was a judgment. They must stone her. Then they take her. Then they take her to Christ. So Christ must acknowledge the next thing they intend to do, which is stoning her to death. Okay, so it's just like business. People want to judge you as you're trying to make it in life, as you're trying to succeed. They don't want to give you that platform where you can actually grow. Even when you make mistakes, it's okay. And that's why at the end of the day, we should be able to recover from mistakes and learn. Now, what's interesting is that Jesus does not respond to the statement they made. What he does is goes on the ground and starts growing, right? He draws a line. So while they are questioning Christ, right? He draws a line, then he asks them one question. He without sin, let them cast their first stone. What happens? Everybody disappears. And guess what? A person who was deemed for death ends up having life. Now that which was meant to destroy them ends up becoming their success point. So sometimes this culture of wanting to stop people from succeeding that we have is very dangerous. At the end of the day, you find that there are people who actually succeed. Shaka went through the same situation. There was a gentleman that went to tell the king to say, Shaka has got a spear and a sword that's not making sense. His strategy doesn't make sense. They reported him to the king. That ended up becoming the new revelation of success. So sometimes people may want to work against you, but you as an entrepreneur need to realize that you can build, right? You can build from this negativity. I say this because we have a culture of negativity that limits us from success, which is something that our friends don't have. The Jews will add on what they have. Why? Because they don't want you to be a financial burden in their life. So if there's anything they can do to assist you to succeed, they're happy to do it. Us, on the other end, we want to be the first to throw the stone, where they want to be the first to judge, right? That so-and-so has failed. We're looking for that moment to even go on social media and post. So-and-so has failed. We should thank you have done this.
I think as part of what we should be doing as people, and I know that culturally we have strayed wrong as a people, but I do think that there is a change starting to happen. Take a look at us. We're three men from three different areas. We didn't grow up with each other, but we've seen value in each other, and we have seen the ability to collaborate. I do see that there's more of a collaborative spirit, and I would like to maybe it's even on us who have such platforms to start shining a light on where collaboration is working. Because yes, we know that Zambia has got a torrid history of people turning on each other, unfortunately, and not really doing as well as we should be. But there is examples and shining examples now of people actually working together. I think the question on the screen is something I think we'll address in a different show, because that's right now that's not really the build to last motto right now. But I want to go into building things to last. I know we can talk about stuff, and I don't really want to get into the Zambia bashing game, because the truth of the matter is it's easy, it's the simple way out. Let's do the hard work as three people in this area of actually building our people. Let's do this hard work. And what is building things to last? And let's go through enlightening. Because one of the three things, and we have this in our motto as our business, as what we can do to guide people is to educate them, or the four things we can do is to educate them, enlighten them, encourage them, and enable them. These are the four things that we should be looking to do here. But we have pointed out the problem is a toxic culture. But let's start moving towards what we can do to better this. And one of the things people did point out is the Southern Province cattle business is one which is handed over from one generation to another, though unfortunately it's never commercialized. It's kept at small scale, but it's never really expanded as much as it should be. But it is an example of the intergenerational wealth transfer that we do have. Now, let's start going into let's go into the book itself and how we can bring this home. And there's some strong principles I really would advise people. And as I said again, Built to Last is a very important book written in 1914. And just to give a quick reader on what it is, Built to Last is written by Jim Collins and Jerry Paris, where they focus on timeless success principles that can be learned from visionary companies such as Marriott, Procter & Gamble, Walt Disney, whose success have lasted the test of time, unlike individual institutions and organizations that fail to transcend generations. That's what this book chronicles. Although most of the companies studied are American corporations, the authors have since verified that the principles work across many cultures, many countries, and many different types of NGOs and institutions. The findings debunk many myths that about successful companies, and insights can be applied, be it a CEO and so forth. So this is just a quick read on it. Now, what was done is the findings came from 6 years of extensive research of 18 visionary companies compared to 18 comparison companies. And by the end of 1990, these comparison companies did twice as well as the stock market since 26, while the visionary companies did 15 times as well. Okay. So the comparison companies grew 2 times what the stock market did, while the visionary companies they're going to chronicle did 15 times. And the visionary companies, this is what they've stated, are companies that were premier institutions, leaders of their industry, widely admired for their knowledgeable business, and have made a huge impact on the world, have had many generations of CEOs. Okay, this is the key one. Many generations of leaders, and have been alive for at least 50 years. Some of these visionary companies include 3M, American Express, Citicorp, HP, where Jim Collins himself used to work, Marriott, Procter & Gamble, and Walt Disney. So these are some of the things that they did actually put out in this company, and they debunked some of them. But let's look at philosophies. So I want to introduce, there are 4 philosophies that have actually been stated in this book, and I want us to talk about them from our perspective. What have we seen of these philosophies in our country, and how can people apply them? I really want us to start, and I say this again, I want us to start educating, encouraging, enabling, and enlightening our people as to the way. Those who choose not to follow and continue in the old cultures and the disgusting mindset that we have, let them continue there. Let them rot on the weeds. But those who choose to follow the way, let's do it. Let's if we can get one person from here to get it right, then let's applaud and go for that. So the 4 principles, and we'll talk about each of them individually. We'll give each other the floor to. The first one is called clock building versus time telling. The second one is called go for and not for or. The third one is more than profits, and the fourth one is preserve the core, stimulate the progress. So let's talk about the first one. I'm going to introduce it. Clock building versus clock building. Basically, what they say is visionary companies have their long-term success not come from a great idea or a charismatic leader or anything, but rather from the fact they act like a clock. They build a system that operates regardless of who's at the top. They build a system that continues to flow, accounting systems, marketing. And Shadrach always talks about this. When you start your business, and even Kenny, systemize, formalize and systemize. They build a system, and I'll give my thoughts on this later. But the ultimate creation is the company itself. Coca-Cola has gone through many iterations. All these companies, PG, they've gone through many iterations, many products, many things. But they've come back to this. So by focusing on designing the right organization, rather than always trying to only focus on specific products, they tend to outlast and outlive, because their success hinges on their design and their structure. Okay, and especially later on. So, Kenny, I think as we await Shadrach, Kenny, what are your thoughts on design of companies and structure as the factor that leads to outlasting? What is your thoughts on that? Sorry, just unmute. Sorry, Kenny, can you unmute your mic?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. One of the quick revelations I've had of late is something to do with manufacturing. Okay, and businesses, and I think we had that conversation where I was talking about creating something new, because every product that we use either depreciates or perishes. Okay, so eggs will have to produce more. Lotion, we have to produce more. Cars that we drive, when it's outlived its use, we have to replace it with another one. So now that means that you have to create something new, and that's what manufacturing actually means. So as a result, am I still there?
No, you're
Okay.
still here. Still here.
So
We were just giving you the full screen. We're giving you the full
yeah,
screen
I'm not
treatment.
scared. I'm like, what's going on? Okay, so as a result, you find that our friends have built systems that create this process of manufacturing efficiently. Now, the beauty about manufacturing, it has two components to it. There's a raw material that's added to make the product, or components that are put together to make the product. We normally just consume. And then when we go to school, we go to school learning to come and take a job. We're not learning to become the better version of Elon Musk, or the better version of the Marriott, or the better version of Zambeef and things like that. So as a result, we miss out on the ability to build these systems. And that's why even Vusit and Bekwai teaches that it's very difficult for instant gratification, where you just come and take over, let's say, ABSA. You just take over ABSA. How will you? You don't know how it was built or how it was put together, even if you decided to give it to locals. So now these systems, the fact that we're not in this process of creating these things and then improving on them once you've created them, okay, so that you produce a better version. I think you've seen Trade King's products. They've always called it new boom, but there are certain things they do over time, because they know in the sell cycle there's a point where it's taking a dip. And then they now make a newer version in terms of cover, but the content is probably still the same. Now, you can't play in that space if you're not creating anything. You understand? You're not being creative. And that's why I appreciate manufacturing as creativity, as opposed to anyone and everyone looking for a unique product to create, right? But rather, even the things that we already know, our ability to create those things. And being able to build those systems, I think that is where now, if we are to defend the idea, we can now have a formula and system created, which we can now pass on to the next generation. And when they come, they do it better and improve on it, so that a newer model is coming out. So for me, it comes from that perspective, from that creativity, the ability to manufacture something. It could be in a value chain. It could be that you are producing the end product, or it could be that you're producing something that will go into another manufacturing process. You get the point. But you have to be in a value system of some sort for you to be able to have a system. Yeah.
So yeah, no, and it's true. I want to add something there, Kenny. You started something actually that, and you just skipped over it very quickly. And someone actually pointed this out. I want to get to a comment here. Our friend here has written. Jimmy Piri said, "Well, in Zambia, the formula is very simple. My son, go to school, finish school, start work, make sure you work until you retire, then get your retirement package, go back to your ancestral land and farm until you die. God answers you when God calls back for you." Very simply put, but true. Actually, it's quite true. That's the Zambian. Ruben, who used to work with us on
Jim
Money
has a point.
Ruben actually said the same thing. He said the Zambian dream is to get a job, is to finish school, get a job, get married, buy a plot, have a car, and then quietly wait for your demise. You know, that's the Zambian dream, our lack of aspiration. But one of the problems I've seen with that is when we work in institutions. I'll tell you this: I've worked in pension, I've worked in the stock market, I've worked in bond brokerage. For me to understand bonds and retirement planning and all these things is because I went in there and I learned their systems. Okay. As an employee, one of the best places where you can learn things is as an employee. You are so exposed. But because we go into job seeking only for money, okay, we don't go in there to understand what's going on. We go there purely for money. We are blind to all this information that we're getting. Okay, what formulas does your workplace use? What clients are in your industry? You know, people don't pay attention, because one of the best industries to start working is where you have experience, because you've seen back end systems of
Yeah.
companies and how they operate. So my worry, I think, with the pursuit of money is the beginning of all evil, is because when you're pursuing money, you blind yourself to divine opportunities like that, where you get to see. I saw these companies working. I saw their formulations. I saw how everything works. I experienced auctions. I experienced transactions. I experienced these things. So that now when I run my own business, I'm drawing from all this experience I have to be able to get to that position. When you look at Zambeef, who's actually one of the, if you look at Faith Mukutu, the new lady who's run Zambeef, she started in what's it called? Chiwuku, what's the company? National Breweries, in food and beverage accounting. So she's done value chain management there. Then she moved to Zambia Sugar. Then she moved to South African Breweries or Zambia Breweries. Then she moved to Zambia Sugar. Then she moved to Zambeef. Look at that, the wealth of experience she's picked up, so that when they ascended her to CEO, why she's become the first Black Zambian, the first woman, and she has ascended to that point, is because everywhere she's gone, she's learned. She's absorbed so much information to the point where she did a miracle turnaround of Zambeef that now got her to that CEO position. So I think the problem comes down to our job-seeking mentality and our money-chasing mentality blinds us from learning when we're at work. Because when you're an employee, you can visibly see what's happening and how this business works, so that when it's time for you, that's why what's her name? Java Food, Easy Noodles. She said, when you work for a man who produces food and produces a lot of household things, Dangote, it's easy to come back and see how these supply chains are supposed to work. I remember that interview where she talked about it, saying that I learned a lot working with him, that I was now able to come back and replicate and build Java from here. And that's how we now have Easy Noodles, which has become a staple of so much life. So I think that's something we need to think about. Shadrach, we're talking about
just
building systems.
Before you move, just
1 minute before we can
do you realize that you've just said that you mentioned the reason why you can't you can't have generation of businesses, because that very point you raised or mentioned is what dies with the person who's pursuing it. It's like me giving my degree or my qualifications to my children and saying, my child, go and use my degree and make a career of your life. That won't happen. But you can leave them a business. Now, because of that pursuing of that money and not building that institution, a system where the children can inherit, then basically you're not leaving them an inheritance. So yeah, Shadrach can pick up from there.
Shadrach, yeah. What do we talk about? You as an architect of businesses, you are a chartered accountant. I think one of the things, you go in there and you are able to point out, especially in audit style, where are we falling short in building systems in our country to ensure that we can build things to last?
Yeah, and that's a very good question.
People take notes. This is a chartered accountant speaking. Okay? This is the person who inspects and writes. So take notes. He's about to tell you what he sees when he looks into business. I just wanted to prepare them on that one.
I think from my professional perspective, like I said, I want to give you a background briefly. I've worked with companies as well. I've been a coordinator. I've worked with SPS. I've been able to run Zanaco projects, Southern Province and Western Province, as a coordinator, which means all the supervisors in Western Province and Southern Province were reporting to me, and I was able to consolidate the work from Southern Province and Western Province, and then come to make a conclusion what should be done. So what I'm trying to say is that I've been able to work at a higher level, and I've been able to make decisions at a very highest level. So what I'm saying here is that what I noticed is something that Mnyumba said. When we go into employment, we do not learn. All right. And because we do not learn, it is difficult for us to build systems. When I worked for this company, all right, there's something that I noticed I did not know that I learned. Today, I'm able to do business advisory because I've learned something from my previous employments. I learned how my company was making money. I learned how my company were acquiring clients. And now I went to open my own company and started implementing those things that I learned to benefit myself. So the reason why we have failed when it comes to building systems is because we are too comfortable. We do not plan for the future. All right. It's like it's a simple thing. When you're auditing a company number, it would shock you. You find adults, elderly people, when they see you, a young man, and not coming, they even hold their chest when greeting you. An indication that they were not prepared for this particular audit. They are scared. They are everywhere, overtime, everywhere. Why? Because we don't think ahead. We don't plan for tomorrow as businesses. We are so much content with just providing a service, getting paid, buying a nice car, getting married, and then just wait to die. So if we can start looking for ways of how we can, leverage technology to scaling up our businesses, that can help us a lot. And this is what I like about this question: where are we failing? I think number one, where we are failing as businesses is we lack financial advisors. A lot of businesses that we have worked with, Myumba, out of 10 businesses, maybe only 2 have a loyal advisory, somebody that is able to give them strategic advice about what to invest, what to do, and very few even have a risk department. A lot of companies have no risk department, they have no research and development, they have no company lawyers, they have nothing. They just have the owner of the company, employees, they are enjoying all the money to themselves.
Even
They
when it
can't
makes
see
like 50 million, 100 million, even
yes,
companies,
yes,
you see the same behavior. Not even just less than a million.
yeah,
Someone 10, 20 million, I've seen that behavior.
yes. So because we don't have that thing, we don't value financial advice as a people. We want to consume all the profits to ourselves. We don't want to share with professionals who can help us to set a strategy that can stand the test of time. If you are the owner of the business, you are so much comfortable with making decisions on your own because you want to do things that are making sense to you. All right. Even when you seek for advice, you find that people they come to our the clients in Nyumba came to me for advice. And I gave them the advice. All right. I was very honest with them. They said, thank you so very much. When they went their way, they did the exact opposite of what I told them. They felt they came back. I said, but this is the thing we talked about when you came. Have you seen? So because
Yeah.
the advice was against the owner of the business, the man did not appreciate it. He wanted something that was going to favor him as a business owner. All right. So we lack financial advisors. We lack strategy. All right. And then we don't really plan ahead for the future. A simple example is if you ask a lot of clients that even for I ask my clients, I say, do you have people on standby who can take up this role if this one resigned? Very few people have. They say, no, we are going to advertise. No, you advertised this position last time. From the people who did well, didn't you put a list of those who performed well but were not suitable at the time to be employed? Why didn't you put that list so that in case this one leaves, you can quickly call upon this next person? Or before you advertise outside, have you tried to check within the company to see who has performed better, who can you groom, who can you nurture to become the
Get to that
CEO?
point.
Because we don't do that. You find somebody's been working for 10 years, they have not been promoted anywhere. Maybe just simple tasks. The position come for CEO, you advertise outside. That person is demotivated. So when people begin to feel that they are part of the business, they do things that they can never do for themselves, for you, the employer, because they feel a sense of belonging. And that's why we have failed as Zambian business, because we are so selfish. We want to be known that we are the bosses. We want to enjoy all the monies to ourselves. We don't want to pay a lawyer, to pay a financial advisor, to pay an economist, to pay a strategist. We don't want to pay anybody. We just want to consume everything to ourselves. And that has brought us down. And remember, as we go, we're going to talk about the jobs, how they're going to be eliminated by AI. And I saw a question here from is it Isnite Adino, who says, can you explain how you can scale and remain relevant in financial consultation and advisory business with the adaptation robotics and AI in line with the intergenerational business relay? Guys, this is a very important question. In case you're wondering,
and I'll answer it. I'll answer it specifically as a financial advisor. In that you don't want to contend with change. And I'll talk about it. There's an actual component of it, but you don't want to contend with change. You want to lead change. But we'll get to this, especially that point, and we'll come back as to how to manage change itself. But Shadrach, just to get just on the next point, on something you said. I want to tell the 2 points I've gotten out of what you said. I want to tell the story of Michael Bloomberg. People don't know, where did Bloomberg come from? And there's his backstory as an individual. He was born, let me just get his date. Michael Bloomberg was born in 1942, obviously in Boston. And his father was a bookkeeper to a dairy company. So that's kind of like the lower middle class family where he was raised. But now let's get to his career. In 1973, Michael Bloomberg became the general partner at Solomon Brothers, a large Wall Street investment bank, where he headed the equity trading, later the systems development. Okay, think about that. He developed systems because Bloomberg Corporation deals with a Bloomberg trading terminal and information terminal. 80% of their income comes from that. It's not the TV station that you're seeing. It's that terminal. 80% of their wealth comes from that terminal, or their money comes from it. Now, he says the company, Fibro Corporation, bought out Solomon Brothers in 1981, and the new management fired Bloomberg and paid him a retrenchment package of $10 million for his equity in the firm. Using his money, Bloomberg, having designed an in-house computer financial system at Solomon Brothers, set up a data service which named the Innovative Market Systems. This formed the basis for Bloomberg that you see today. So the Bloomberg you see today was a system he developed while he was working. Okay? So the question is, when you are working, what innovations are you coming up with in your work time? So that when you transition into entrepreneurship, you are able to take those things, because that's property. When you work, you come up with ideas, you come up with structures, systems. If you are just somebody who's just following instructions and then piddling along, you're not going to start anything when you step out. But if you're coming up with things and you take your innovations with you, that innovative spirit can go. So employment is an actual opportunity to test your innovative skills by bringing them into the realm of employment and then deploying them when you're out there. So he took something he created. He said, okay, give me my $10 million. And the more important than the $10 million he got was the information system that he created while he was at Solomon Brothers. Because he was tracking markets. He was tracking data. He was tracking everything. He took that and said, now I'm going to start a trading terminal that other people are going to be able to utilize. And he sold that terminal and then created a media company on top of that. And now you have Michael Bloomberg today. So how many people are innovating while at work and then taking those systems with them? Then the second thing I wanted to talk about, Shadrach, which you pointed out, is the types of people we have. And I'm going to talk about a taxonomy of creation that I call, something I call the taxonomy of creation. People write this one down. It's actually something I've marked, and I've also shared it again. When you start a business, you start with a product. Okay, before you build a business, you start with a product. That product, you make it functional. Okay, so you just want this product to function. A lot of you try and make it beautiful. That's why it never gets released. Start by making your product functional. Test it in the market. Then you make it operational, meaning it can take in inputs, it can process, and it can give out outputs. Basic function. We call this the basic level of your value chain, not the top level where you're talking about human resources, just basic level stuff. Can I get in the raw inputs, process them, and spit out what needs to come out, whether it's a service, whether it's a business? The second thing, the third level you want to deal with is make it optimal. Now, how do I optimize this? Okay, how does it function at the best level so that it's delivering the best value? At this point, okay, before, the people who are working in your business are called generalists, people who can just do the general work. When you are optimizing something, specialists need to come in. This is what Shadrach means when it's time to bring in advisors. So at this point, first, you without advisors and stuff, you build a functioning product. Then you make it operational so that it can sell. You've developed this cash flow. Now you're able to kind of get up to a level where you've even got a few employees. But when you're there and you're now trying to optimize it, you need specialists, because specialists will take you from optimization to the fourth level, sustainability. So you want to go from functional to operational to optimal to sustainable. And when something is sustainable, it has systems. Okay. For your business to be sustainable, sustainability means you shouldn't even be there and it should be running. You can be in a coma and it's still running because you've put systems. God made Earth so that Earth had systems. Once he created the first day, the next days he spent building systems. Water, land, fauna, all these things. These are actual ecological systems God created so that the Earth can function on its own without his intervention. Okay. Then once it's sustainable, then you make it beautiful, then you make it memorable. So a lot of you are rushing to be beautiful and memorable, but the substance of a business is something that is functional, operational, optimal, and sustainable. And sustainable also means interacting with your society, but we'll talk about that. But the point I just wanted to get here, for those of you who are trying to build your businesses, go through that phase. But once you get past operational, you need to start bringing in specialists. You can't have generalists in you. Once you get to past operational, you need a specific social media manager. Okay, you need to pay that person for their services, or at least buy a book. I've got books here by this lady. Thanks to Shadrach talking to me, I bought these books. These are sales specialists. Okay, I bought this and I'm reading it because this is her consultation services she's giving me. She's a specialist in this area, and I'm trying to improve my sales. Okay, so because I'm reading that book, she's helping me build sales systems. Okay, just in case you haven't read, it's the one Shadrach told me about, 7 Steps to Better Sales by Susan Mulongoti. And I've been reading this every day. I read it every day before I go to sleep, and I start looking at what to implement.
I've read that books over 3 times. 3 times. And then, even when I was talking about Tumunyomba, I knew it's going to benefit.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, there are changes I've already made to my business. Tangible changes that I've already made to my business and our processes that are already yielding because I've been implementing what a specialist is telling me. Not a generalist, a specialist with a decade of experience. Okay, so you need to start drawing from specialists when you start going to optimization and sustainability, because this is where you're building the systems that will allow you to exit roles, because you don't want to take up the actual functional roles of your business. When you're making it functional, that's it. When you're moving to operational, you hire functional people so that you can now build the operating environment for it. When you're making it optimal, you hire operational people as well. So there's functional, operational. Now you're trying to build a structure to optimize it, or you're trying to tweak the operations. Then you're building an ecosystem of things to make sure that it's fully sustainable. Then you bring in brand specialists and everything now to make it beautiful and memorable. Focus on those things, people. I want you to write it in the comments. Okay, please write it down. I'm going to say it again. Make it functional, make it operational, make it optimal, make it sustainable, make it beautiful, make it memorable, in that order. And when you pass operational going to optimal, you want to make sure that you are bringing specialists or reading the books of specialists to try and now guide you in that process. So these are the systems. So I think some of the lessons we want to say is learn from other systems that you've seen. Use employment as an opportunity to learn. All my business that I'm built has come from learning where I worked. I've seen it as an insider. Shadrach is talking about things he learned. Okay, we gave you the story of Michael Bloomberg, who learned. Even what's his name, Noel Nkoma, who has built Better Now Finance. He used to work for Finance Bank. He learned the systems of lending, and then he implemented it when he now went and started Better Now Finance. People, the examples are people learn, then they go and start implementing in their own. It doesn't come from without. So there's a lot of fooling ourselves into thinking that. So the second principle, Shadrach, in Built to Last, and I really want to think about, because systems do sustain things. When systems run, because God created, before God put man on the earth, he had systems. There were systems built already and operating. So the second one is called Go for And I want to read what it says here when it says and, the genius of and. Visionary companies do not limit themselves to the tyranny of or, e.g. sustainability or change, low cost versus high quality. Instead, they find ways to embrace both. And that's where innovation comes in. And they find profit and purpose. Conservative hold bold ideological control and autonomy. So they go beyond trying to say it's a trade-off. When they look at two things competing, they say, how can both these things exist? How can I lower the cost while improving the quality? How can I lower the cost and be profitable? How can I be profitable and be good for the environment? So the question is, you have to stop saying or immediately. Start with and only say or when there's nothing you can do. But first, always go for and. Okay, how can you infuse these two things that are competing? Because that's often where you're going to innovate, and that's a very big question. So Shadrach, what's your views on taking an and, or would you say a win-win mentality over a competing mentality?
Yes, so I use an example for a salesman. And guys, in case you've not read that book by Susan Mwenda Mulongoti, please read it. And I'm very happy that Munyomba's read it. Guys, please read it. I've read that book, Munyomba, 3 times. And somebody was telling me, Shadi, why do you like talking about this woman? Who is she to you? Is she your lady? She's not. I've never even met this lady. I've never even met her. But I have benefited so much from her books that I'm not selfish. I want to share it with as many people as I can. All right. And I'm going to be buying it next week I'm be sending it to my cousin in the village. I want him to read it also because it's a real game changer here. All right. And coming back to Mnyumba's question here, win-win mentality is key in business. Usually, I give an example of a salesman. I'm a salesman. And if there's something that I know I'm good at is I'm good at sales. I make sales. I talk to clients. All right. That is just my thing. I don't let money just leave for nothing. I don't do that. There are people, I don't just let money leave me. And I agree with that statement because for me, there are people I do sessions with. Sometimes I'll charge them, maybe somebody will pay me 10,000. All right. Like this week, I have a list of clients I'm charging maybe 5,000 because I'm looking at the time, the opportunity because of what I have, what I'm doing. If I lose 200 squares today, and how many times are we going to lose those 200 squares in a year?
Ross said the same thing actually.
Yeah, they would have made a difference. So right now, I have clients that are paying maybe 5,000 kwacha, and I'm saying no, it's fine. But I have those that are paying 15,000 kwacha. But what's the difference? The difference is the timing. What do I stand to lose right now? All right. If I know that I'm losing around, why should I let 5,000 kwacha go? I'm going to need to buy fuel. So I think I need it. So the thing that I usually advise is this: if you're a salesman, a good salesman is always ready to negotiate. All right. You have to reach a point where I gave an example last time. I did a show that I said, if a client comes to you, a client is very promising. There are those times where a client is promising number, everything is okay, you talk, but when you tell them the price, and then all of a sudden they say, you know what, I'll get back to you. And I was saying, the moment a client says, I'll get back to you, a good salesman does not say, you know what, okay, yes, thank you so much. Okay, yeah, when can I call you? No, that is wrong. Because the moment you ask your client, when can I call you, you are shifting the bargaining power from yourself and giving it all away to your client. All right. So don't appear to be needy when you're negotiating for a better deal, but show the client that you care and you're willing to negotiate. All right. There's a difference between being willing to negotiate and they're paying to be needy. So if a client says, I'm going to get back to you, a win-win mentality says, okay, what is it going to take for us to close this deal right now? How can I help you? Because I know for you to call me, to come to me right now, I know you're serious. Something. I know you did something. Nobody just comes all the way from where I come to my office. What can I do better? Is it the price? Or can I make you what if I give you a small discount? Or how about I make a payment plan? Try to understand what is making the client not to close that deal at a particular moment. That is a win-win mentality. You want to win, but also you want to make sure the client is happy at the same time. Right? So the difference between appearing to be needy and negotiating for a sale. So a win-win mentality, this is where most of us have failed terribly in business. Because we say, you know what, I'll show them that I am the owner of the business. At the end of the day, if a client leaves, who stands to lose more? It's you. Because you need their money. Yes, you have a fantastic product, but it's not going to buy itself. So you need somebody to come and buy it. So develop a win-win mentality. Like Mnyumba was saying, that mentality helps you to even, when a client sees you care, all right? And this is what Susan talks about in her book. She talks about, satisfying the needs of your clients.
Yeah.
Once a client feels that their needs have been satisfied, you're creating an ecosystem of loyalists who are going to become your marketing managers. Before you know it, everybody's buying from you. And guys, I'm recommending again, if you've not bought that book by Susan Mlongoti, please buy it. And I'm willing to buy it for you. I think I'm going to ask if she has some soft copies that I can buy for people and just send to them. Because it's such a masterpiece. I've read many Zambian books, but when it comes to sales, guys, nothing beats this book. It is simple to understand. Mm-hmm. It is straightforward. True. And I like, I've read this book number 3 times. 3 times. And every time I read this book, I learn something new. That's one thing I've come to learn about this book. She's put it so simple. Whether you're grade 12, you're grade 5, even if you're grade 2, buy this book. Even if you just ran away, the first
You're
day
all
from
getting a glimpse of Shadrach's sales skills. I can see. You're all getting a glimpse of why he says he's a good salesman. You can
no,
see
but
now.
this lady has done a
No, but it's
fantastic
good.
job. I've never
No,
met this lady, guys. To be honest,
I wrote
people
to her
accuse
and
me
I
that
said,
she's. Mm,
I wrote to her
people
and
accuse
I
me that no,
said,
is she a relative?
I've made tangible changes in my business thanks to, and I'm only, by the way, people, I'm only on step
Yeah,
3. I'm not even
yeah,
on step 7. I'm only on step
yeah,
3. But but
yeah,
I'm reading it to implement. I'm also reading to
yeah.
implement. So it's like I feel like she's actually guiding me through my sales strategy as a business. And she's actually
That's a
helping me
masterpiece.
co-write it. And that's the best way about it. But I'm going to add
Yeah,
something, Shadrach, about win-win mentality too. Win-win
yeah,
mentality is not even just about sales, and it's extremely important in sales. Never win at
yeah.
the expense of your customer. Never
No.
win at the expense. Win, but have them have the benefit. The next part I also say is even your employees. I've never, I see people hiring people and say, but I'm already paying them. But what does this person want out of this work experience? What is their aspiration? If you can feed your employees values, if the values of your company connect to the values of your employee, even those people are willing to say in tough times we'll stick with you, boss. Even those people sometimes they'll go the extra mile because now not only are they getting their salary, but they also believe in what they're doing where they are.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
you have employees who believe in the cause, who've bought into it, because it's not just about selling to the customers, sell your mission to your employees as well, because that's how you get the win-win also with your employees. So I want people to also remember, even the people who work for you, you need a win-win. Even the government. Have you seen, Shadrach, how companies like British American Tobacco, if you go into their finances, and I urge everyone, go into the financials of British American Tobacco, they have a line inside their quarterly or their semi-annual reports where they talk about how much they paid in taxes. Because what they want the government to know is we are an asset to you. Okay, not only are we
yeah,
profitable, but the government is receiving pay, because they'll say, how much have we paid to the treasury? And they actually report that number. So they do that for the purpose of the Zambian treasury knowing that if they shut
yeah,
down cigarette sales, then they're not going to be able to get revenue from them. So that is
yeah,
called win-win mentality.
yeah,
Do you think they like paying taxes? No, but they know it's important for the government of the country to understand that that is a cash flow line for them as
yeah,
well. Because it's very easy for people to say ban these things, they're bad for society. But the government now thinks we have to let go of a cash flow line. So when you have a win-win mentality, those who are winning with you keep you alive in bad times. That's what you
yeah,
need to recognize about win-win mentality. It gives you
yeah,
allies who keep you alive when times are tough.
mm, yeah,
So the next one, by the way, now is more than profits. You have to go beyond profits. And here's what they say about visionary companies that last. And you can see as a country, guys, we're falling short in these areas. We're actually falling short. And
yeah,
the third philosophy of built to last companies is visionary companies pursue a cluster of objectives of which money is only one component. So they
yeah,
pursue money, but it's not the paramount or only component. They
yeah,
understand
yeah,
that profitability is necessary for an organization to exist and fulfill its purpose, but there is much more than profit at hand. They pursue both profit and ideology, and there is a
yes,
core ideology that guides and inspires all the people from the top all the way to the bottom. Okay, so one of the key things about lasting companies is a governing ideology alongside profitability. So in the win-win mindset, it's not just profits we're after and maximization. We're also saying maximum impact in society. Now, this is something called conscious capitalism we talked about last time, where you have profit, planet, and people. If you are beneficial to the planet, while beneficial to the people, while beneficial to the profits for the shareholders, all three of these will highly value you. That's why people like Elon Musk are who they are, because it's good for the environment, it creates jobs, it gives people cheaper cars, because an electric car, by the way, is cheaper to run than a gas car. It may be a little bit more expensive to buy, but it's cheaper to run because electricity is cheaper than fuel when you're running your car. So you have an electric car there as well, and it's got an environmental impact because you're taking away half of the demand or the demand for oil. And obviously, there's been a lot of problems in there. So the question is, are you pursuing something that is greater than just making money. Yes, everyone wants to make money. That's why whenever you've got like a brand guide or your sales, if you're doing your sales things, you also have to sell your pitch to your customers. What is your mission? I tell people, I always say, Shadrach, my mission is to see 1 million millionaires in Zambia by 2050. Okay, through investment and entrepreneurship. That's why I'm spending hours on the enterprise corner. That's why I'm creating products and tools for people to use to invest and manage their portfolios, because this is a mission at hand. Yes, I'm going to make money doing it, but there's a mission, and people know that I'm going to make money doing it, but they also trust the mission that I'm out for as well. And people become very comfortable with that mission, and they support a mission. Remember, right now, today, you've got very conscious customers who also want to know what mission are they giving their money to. Okay, Shadrach talked about last time that family finance is about keeping families together. What mission and purpose? So if you're out for just profit, pure profit, your employees will be demotivated, because they'll just think, all our work, we're just feeding his family. All our work, we're just sending him to Chicago's on the weekend. That's what your employees will feel like. Your customers will think, let me look for a better option. You will only be useful to your customers if your customers have no other option. But if they have another option, they'll start looking around. So you really want to make sure that you're not just pursuing profit. You are pursuing profit, but you're pursuing a meaningful impact to society and the planet that you operate into, and giving back in some way, not just charitably. You're creating jobs, you're creating opportunities, you're creating supply chain opportunities. You're part of the community that if you died today, people would feel your impact. Like they would say, hey, we can't lose this one. They will keep you alive if they can. So beyond profit makes you valuable to society. Sorry, Shadrach, go ahead.
And remember what you're saying, guys, I'm going to give myself as an example. I worked for a company owned by a Lebanese man. All right. And, I worked so hard that I was promoted from just being a mere employee. I went to supervisor. I went to operations supervisor. I went to assistant operations personnel. I kept rising. One day I woke up and I resigned. I put in a resignation letter. And my boss, I left that company. But one thing I'll never forget, my boss called my mom, all right? And he said, please, want your son to be back. He even actually called my aunt, where because at that time I'd moved out of Lusaka, telling them that they wanted me back. And he said this, he said, you know what, Shadrach, come back. I feel like 10 people are missing. Please come. That day, I realized that I'm
Okay, unfortunately, I think we've lost Shadrach there, and he should be back anytime now. Meaningful. No, you're back. There we go. No, we lost you for a second.
Oh yeah, sure. I left because I saw an opportunity somewhere else, and then everybody needs to move. But what I'm trying to say here was that I was happy with this man because somehow I felt like I was a partner in the business. And this is another issue that we have done poorly as Zambian business owners. We don't treat our employees as our silent partners. They just come for work because we think we pay them and then they leave. It's a partnership. These are the people who are in the front of our business. They represent us. Their attitude is a reflection of us. If they are mistreating clients will not say that employee, they will say that business, that company.
Yeah.
All right. So as business owners, employers must begin to consider the progressive views of employees in the business agenda, right? And begin to recognize the other elephant in the room, who is the employee. Your employee is your silent partner. And if you treat them as such, they will do things for you that they would otherwise wouldn't do for themselves, because they feel that they are part of something big. They feel they are part of something that appreciates who they are. The people I work with, I call them and I tell them, how are you? If your son is sick, even my clients, sometimes my clients will tell me and say, hey, Shadrach, how are you? My son is sick. I'm going to say, you know what? I'm sorry about your son. 2 days later, I'm going to go to ask, how is your son? You said your son was sick. How is your son doing? Why do I call my clients to ask if the son is okay? It's because I'm trying to build a partnership. I'm trying to build an ecosystem of people that are loyalists. Because I understand for me to grow my business, I'm going to need people's support. I don't work alone. I collaborate with different people. Why do I do that? because I'm noticing the fact that I cannot go far alone. I need people to push me to get where I want to be. So as employers, before we talk about customer satisfaction, employee needs should be satisfied. All right, employee needs to be satisfied. If you go to number, you're now in chapter number 3 of Susan's book. You are going to see that she's talked so much on satisfying a need, and that was the game changer for my business. Because sometimes you you're just all over the place. This one says I'm selling fish, you go and start selling fish. I'm doing charcoal, you go and start doing charcoal. You don't have a specific need you're satisfying. All right. But the moment you identify a need, and identify the need in society, and that need has benefited me so much. All right. So, guys, I think remember as a point here, employee satisfaction is key if we're going to build lasting business. Let's not just be about profit, but also about the well-being of the people that are helping you make that money. Because alone you can't. So you need a team of motivated people to work with you so that you can go far together as a team. And if you want to promote somebody, can you please look within before you look outside?
And
that is also a motivation.
We're actually going that's actually one of the factors. That is actually a key factor in building to last. And I love that factor. And I think I'm gonna read a comment here by Adino, who has said here, it's called the psychological contract. Linking individuals to organizations reflects the trust that is fundamental feature of the employment relationship and motivates the employee. So it motivates the individual to fulfill their obligation if they believe that the other party will do the same. And it's also, I'd like to add to this, to that comment, is that if they believe that the values that their work that they're doing aligns with their personal values.
Yes.
If I'm doing something that pays me, that speaks to my personal values, I'm not in conflict, I'm not wrestling with my soul, I will pour my hands, my heart, and my soul into my work. Okay? They will pour everything they can. And what you want is, and you want your work as energy. You want your employees' energy. But to get that energy, it's not just a paycheck. To get the pay, when you give them money, you just get their attention. But when you give them a value that they're going after, satisfaction beyond just the money itself, they start to give you levels of energy you've never seen. So some of you people, and this comes from when you start, let's go back to those systems, when you start hiring specialists who can now start helping with communication even to your employees, training to your employees, how you can communicate your strategy and your values to your employees correctly, as opposed to just trying to push a business through. But this only happens if you're a purpose-driven business and not just a money-driven business. If you're only a money-driven business, you have no values. Your only value is making money. You have no value. So what are you going to communicate to your employees in the first place? You've got nothing to communicate to them. So that's the other thing that's really important. So whatever you are delivering, make sure your employees also know, let them be like that guy who was at NASA, the guy who was cleaning the floors. When they asked that man, they said, what are you doing? You, sir, what do you do here at NASA? He said, I'm sending a man to the moon. Cleaning the floors. He says, I'm sending a man to the moon. Because he believed that he was sending a man to the moon. Okay, I don't know if that story, maybe people just use it as an analogy, but the importance is even the person who cleans your floors has to understand that they are part of the service delivery. They are part of a good environment that a customer comes to see, that brings the customers through the door so that you can make the changes that you need to. Now, the final part, the final philosophy, before we get onto the 5 mechanisms, those will be a bit faster, is preserve the core and stimulate the visionary, and stimulate the progress. And here's what it means. Built to last companies, in other words, durable companies, a visionary company has a relentless drive to progress. Okay, yet concurrently the it is concurrently ideological. So it's got core values, but it believes in being better. Okay, i.e., it adapts without compromising its values. So there is an ongoing dynamic interplay between the core and the progress. The visionary company embraces both. To achieve this, they must translate it into concrete, tangible mechanisms, which we're going to go into. But somebody asked a question earlier, and this is why I'm going to address it, where he talked about, and the same gentleman, I think Adino, talked about this. He asked a question where he said, how am I going to, in my field, how am I going to thrive when AI is coming? Okay, so I think he asked a question where he says, Munyumba, a non-scalable business with, I think that's the wrong question I think he put. So let me just go up a bit further.
That one
I think Yeah, so
That
there we
one
go.
there.
So he's like, can you explain how you can scale and remain relevant financial consultation and advisory business with the adaptation of robotics and AI in line with intergenerational business relay? Okay, so I think we can take that down. So the question he's asking me now is how do I sustain this? One, there is a core reason I'm doing what I'm doing, regardless of the technology that is available. There is a core reason. And one of my things I will do is that because I have a reason for what I'm doing, because I have something that I believe should outlive me for what I'm doing, an intergenerational vision, because what I'm supposed to be handing over to intergenerations is a vision for what I'm doing. With that in mind, I will use whatever tools are necessary to deliver that which I believe is important to me. Okay, that which I believe with my heart. I see that we are changing to a world where we're looking for self. We're seeing three changes happening in service provision in financial services, but in almost all services, and they're called the 3Ds. I want you to take this down. If you run a service-based company, take down the 3Ds. These are changes that are happening. These are three directional changes happening. One is called digitization. The customers and consumers are becoming more comfortable with digital service offerings on their phone from the convenience of them or on their devices. They're becoming more comfortable consuming and using services in digital format, and they're becoming very astute with it. Zambians are raised with phones now. They're raised with smartphones. Kids are getting very comfortable and confident with them. So when they expect a banking service, this is why you saw Stanchart recently release an application. This is why you see all these guys releasing apps, rushing to it, because they've realized digital is what the people have become very comfortable with. We are here delivering a show, not through TV, but through Facebook, because digital is what the Zambian media consumer has become comfortable with. Okay, so that's the first step I understood. So I realized that I have to deliver services in a digital format. The second thing I have to do is I have to deliver them I have to understand decentralization. People don't want to have to come to a central place to have to do business with you. They want to do business from the comfort of where they are. So you must empower other people and then form networks of service providers that you can work with. So you have to be able to decentralize yourself away from where you are, forcing everyone to have to face the inconvenience of coming to you. So that's the second D that you must focus on: decentralize your services. And three, democratize. Customers are always going to ask you for customization of their work because they want to have a say. They want to have a democratic say. They don't just want to have to vote in 5-year elections. They want to vote in the kind of service that they can get. That's why you're seeing people opting, rather than getting bank loans all the time, they rush to maybe things like village banking, though those things can be risky, but they rush to them because at least they have a say. There's more democracy for themselves. So they're rushing for it. Though they're taking on the risk of higher interest rates, they're benefiting from the democracy that you don't get with a back office guy who's determining who can get money and who can't. Okay, so they're running away from the from the dictatorship of the banking lending system and rushing towards peer-to-peer lending and village banking in search of democracy in lending. Okay, so they're looking for where they're also given power, empowering. So your services have to be digital, your services have to be convenient, decentralized, and they have to be democratized, empowering. Okay, your consumers must feel empowered by what they're getting for you. Are you giving them knowledge so that they can make decisions? Are you giving them tools so that they can be enabled? Are you giving them the ability to make their own decisions? Digitization, decentralization, democratization, really important in making sure your services. So in a world where artificial intelligence is coming through, we have to build our services in the financial advisory world eventually to move away from you sitting down with me as an individual. And you'll see this. We actually have a team that's working day and night on how to actually automate a lot of our processes. We're doing that right now. We've been getting the data and putting everything together. Now we're trying to automate processes so that you as the person can get the convenience of your own plan, the power that you have made your own plan. So that's our plan going forward, that we actually have to give you that ability to do that. But it first starts by giving you the service directly, learning your needs. And once I've learned your needs, then I can go forth. So at core, my mission has not changed. My ideology of Zambians being the investors has not changed. My delivery has adapted. So this is what you have to understand. The essence of your product doesn't change. The delivery mechanisms are the ones that technology changes, because technology changes delivery. It doesn't change the core product. It changes the delivery. Enterprise Corner could have been done on a TV station. It could have been done on a radio station. The delivery system is Facebook. That is adaptation. So adapt the delivery, preserve the essence of the need that you're capturing. And if you focus, going back to this, step one is find the need.
That's the bomb,
if
guys.
you focus on the need, the essence of your business is ideological according to the need of your customer.
Fantastic.
The method with which you are delivering the product is then changed with technology. Adapt delivery, understand the need, and move with the customer's need. That is the ideological balance.
Just on that same step from that book, guys. Remember talking about the need. You know, when COVID-19 was coming, something I thought about was the need. I knew people were not going to be meeting. I ordered a machine that enabled me to satisfy the needs of a lot of students in this country. I was among the first people to ever lecture a huge number of students online. It never happened before in this country because I saw the need. And when I saw that need, people were in employment. People were busy who can't afford to move from employment, to go to school, sit in class, get back home. What did I do? I came up with a way of delivering those lessons to those people online at the comfort of their kitchens, their bedroom, their bathroom, or wherever their backyards. So it solved a certain need for a certain specific number of people. So for me, I say, I'm not targeting everyone. It's not every student, every person I'm targeting. I'm targeting somebody who is in need of this particular service. Somebody who can't afford to go to class, to go to school and stay in school. Somebody who is not having enough time for that. Somebody who wants to learn at the comfort of their home. And then what do? I had a lot of people coming to register with me because there was a need that I saw and I satisfied it. And now I'm still doing that thing, right? I saw family finance. I saw how people were divorcing. I saw how people were struggling with how they can start businesses, how they can formulate strategies. What do? I saw a need, lack of transparency, lack of financial compatibility. What do? I created a course called Family Finance to satisfy that specific need, and it's working. And that's what this lady is talking about in the book. Can you identify a need? Guys, read that book. Please read it. That book is about.
And it's a game changer. It is.
It's a game changer, guys.
But the thing I'll even say to you is the need will often not change. The need for transportation, Shadrach, has never really changed. The need for transport. But the means has changed. The technology has adapted. But the need of the customer to get from point A to point B in the fastest time possible with the least disruption has been there for hundreds of years. So if you're need focused, you'll tend to realize that need at its core, if you understand the emotions of the need, it hasn't changed. The emotions of the need do not change. So if your ideology is pinned on the need of the person, then you can still remain core ideological around that need, but your delivery systems adapt with technology. So that's just something I wanted to put aside. Yeah.
And just back to this question, I think I like this question a lot because it makes a lot of sense. Do you know this question is going to make a lot of people jobless very soon?
Because they're not tracking the trends.
It's a very important question, guys. This Adeno has asked a very important question.
Use technology, don't fight it. In fact, let me say something here from what he's saying. Master the technology, do not combat it. If you fight technology, you're fighting the winds of change. And very few times when change happens, do the people who are battling the winds survive. It's those who lead change who dominate, not those who resist it. People who are resistant to change often die off. So I am learning these things. The first step you have to do is you have to learn them. If you don't learn them, you will not master, you will not survive the change because it will happen. There are businesses right now, there are banks in America who are experimenting as they're busy bad-mouthing cryptocurrency. JP Morgan is experimenting with cryptocurrency blockchains in the back of their office. okay, in the back office of how to trade bonds using parachains, using blockchain systems. They're experimenting with it as they're talking. They've traded hundreds of millions. The European International Bank is experimenting with blockchain technology as they're bad mouthing it. In the background, they're busy working with it because they know that if they resist it, they will crumble. Look at mobile money. If people resisted mobile money, these banks, if they fought it, look at where they'd be now. Mobile money is the most dominant payment system in this country. They know that. And they know that they cannot fight against it. So everybody has to understand that you can't fight change. You must learn change before it becomes dominant, master it, and implement it in a way that you can control it. Because if you don't learn it, you can't control it.
And that's the point that guys, I'm happy to mention that I'm one of those people who kept calling FNB to link FNB with Airtel, because most of my clients, when I deal with them, they would send money through Airtel money. All right, now at the challenge of withdrawing money, going to deposit in a bank. So I would call FNB several times. Can you automate this thing, please? Is there they kept assuring me, don't worry, it's gonna work. One day I received a message that said, you can now move money from your mobile money into your FNB account. That was a breakthrough for me because it's something I've always been pushing for. All right. So what have banks done? Banks have noticed the need. Right. They've said, what mobile money, we can't fight it, but let's just join them and work with them. Now they have automated their systems. You can now move money from your bank account to your Airtel money account or mobile money account, or from mobile money account to your bank account. Why have they done that? Because they know that if they don't want to move together with the change, they'll be out of business. That's the question Dino is asking. He says, can you explain how you can scale and remain relevant? I know I'm an accountant, but I know how do I remain relevant? Because now there's AI. All the member of what is called CATS, CAATS, computer assisted audit techniques. The computer can help you to do financial statements. The computer can do the AI. You don't have to call somebody like me to come and start doing those things for you. And soon, a lot of jobs are going to be eliminated because of AI. So how do you remain relevant as an accounting professional? Can you create a system? All right? Create a system for a client that's going to satisfy the need so that you don't become irrelevant. So we are going forward to a situation where we are going to have place more value on practical work and less value on degrees. So degrees, MBAs, these things are phasing out, guys, in case you don't know. Look at just some guy from some compound who's doing some TikTok videos. He's making millions and millions of dollars on TikTok. What MBA do they have? Nothing. What degree do they have? Zero. Yeah, what have they done? This guy makes $750,000 in one clip, a clip on TikTok. Per clip, $750,000. What degree does he have? Zero. MBA. So this one is learning English and a few things so that he can start talking.
He met Snoop Dogg last week. You've never met anyone.
Yes.
He's meeting celebrities. Yes. No, but the thing I'd like to also even put to Shadrach's thing. If you track Bitcoin, people think about this, and this is why we mean when we say change with the times, but hold your values. That's what built to last companies do. They change their delivery methods, but they hold on to their core values. Why? You hold on to the why do you do what you do, okay? What you want to hold on to is the why you do what you do. How you do what you do, you change, okay? Listen to that very carefully. The why stays the same. The how changes, okay? Change the how, keep the why the same. And the reason is this. Shadrach will always want to do what he's doing. But if you look at Bitcoin, for example, Bitcoin is a system of transactions that have been happening yet it hasn't missed a transaction. Yes, there have been issues with the wallets, but the actual blockchain has not missed a transaction. Has nobody paid attention to the fact that that thing has done self-audits for 10 years without an auditor going through it? To the point where when you now have blockchain forensics, the FBI were able to actually locate a guy who stole Bitcoin by actually locating the chain and moving along the chain. That's almost how perfect the blockchain is as an auditing system. Okay, it's something that eventually people are going to have to understand, and those who are in that space are going to have to understand this is a system that is now going to form a new norm. The why they audit will stay the same, but the how they audit is being changed by blockchains right now. And he's talking about computer-assisted computer-assisted
audit techniques.
Yeah, audit techniques. These are things that you have to pay attention to. I'm looking at what's called AI-driven investing. robo-advisory. As an advisor, I have to pour all my formulas, all my systems into a computer as quickly as possible to offer robo-advisory solutions to people. That's where I have to go down to. That's my future. If you're not going down that route, you can forget about it. There is
forget your degree packet. It won't work.
It's of no value if you're not going to have some sort of robotic system behind you. So you can tame the technology or get tamed by the technology. You make your decision. So now just quickly, as we run down here, we're looking at 5 mechanisms that businesses utilize in order to change with the times, but in order to hold on to their core values. There are 5 mechanisms, and I'm going to read through them very quickly. I'm going to read through them very quickly. These are the 5 mechanisms are called BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals, cult-like cultures, experimenting a lot, and homegrown management. This is what Shadrach has been talking about. And good is never enough. Okay, so let's start quickly with this and we'll go through them. BHAG, we've talked about this. Powerful, it's a powerful mechanism to stimulate progress where people have got aspirational goals. Okay, so remember I said, make 2 sets of goals. One that is your expectation based on the past, but then always have an aspiration. Last time, I think we were having a sales meeting and we're sitting down saying, okay, how much are we going to sell this month? We put a number. Then I said, okay, that number is based on our trend and where we're coming from. So it's a decent estimation of how much. Now, can we look at what we would love to sell? If everything goes right, we would love to? So what we agreed is we're going to put our resources and we're going to plan our resources according to the expectation, but we're going to plan our energy or place our energy towards the aspiration. So it forces us to be innovative. Okay, it forces us to think outside the box. So BHAGs, in other words, I would like to give you that framework of saying, build your SMART goals, but have a baseline expectation so that you know where the floor is. Where is the minimum you expect it to be? But then have an aspiration. And don't plan your life on the aspiration, but aim for it. People aim for the stars, but know that you have to land at least on the top of the mountain. Like you have to land somewhere. And most likely what's going to happen to you as a person is you'll stretch your goal. If your goal is 10, if your expectation is 10 and your aspiration is 100, if you exert your energy to 100 but plan for 10, you'll probably hit 50. Okay, that's probably what you'll do. You'll probably land somewhere in the middle. Yes, you won't reach the 100, but you're way above 10. And that's what Grant Cardone, when he talks about the 10x rule, he says you're not going to hit the 10 times of your goal, but you're probably going to hit 3, 4 times, 5 times, much bigger than what you were expecting. Yeah. So aim your energy at your aspiration. So that's BHAGs. Shadrach, what do you think about people having aspirational goals to help them stretch themselves and progress themselves?
Actually, in accounting, we explain that very well when it comes to flexible budgets, where we say, let's say you have a budget to sell 10,000 units. All right. So you're going to say, okay, fine, we want to sell 10,000 units, but if all goes well, we can even scale up to 11,000, 12,000, and max 13,000. But if things don't go well, we can reduce to 9,000, 6,000, and 5,000. Right? That is called being realistic in estimations. So what that means, when you have an aspiration, it motivates you to want to do better because you have something bigger you're looking forward to. You know, there's no point. Do you know why we do what God says we do in the Bible? It's because we hope for something greater that He has promised us.
Yeah.
So we have great aspirations to live longer, to live forever. All right. So we were willing to do whatever it takes to be able to live that future that we have been promised by God in the Bible. All right. So when you don't have aspirations, it's like you have nothing to wake up to in the morning. Mm. You're just like a tree waiting for some guy with an axe to come and cut it down. All right. But if you have aspirations, you're going to come up with a standard of behavior, a certain way of doing things, because you have something that you're looking forward to. Where there's hope, there's usually activities and actions that are taking place. Aspirations give you hope.
Yes.
Hope influences your behavior.
Expectations, but please have baseline expectations.
Yeah.
Please, people. Have both.
Like we are saying, have both. You have like I said, You can say your budget to sell 10,000 units. That's realistic because you've a record that you're comparing yourselves to, like Minimba was saying. But can you have aspirations? Say, okay, what if things go well? I think if things go well, we can go up to 11,000 units, 12,000, 13,000. Those are aspirations. It doesn't mean that you're going to achieve them. No. You're just saying, theoretically, if things went well, it would be nice for us to sell 13,000. All right. Now, that thought alone, when you get to 10,000, because you know what? I think 13,000 is possible because now you have some hope. You are closer to what you thought you would do. All right. When I started my business, but you know, the first time I did it for free, I was scared. I did it for free. I lectured people for free, and they passed from the degree level and the master level. I did it for free, guys. Free, zero kwacha. All right. When somebody passed, I was motivated. You know what? Gosh, I can do this. What? Let me try and take up a class. And I took up a class. I had about 8 people in that class for the first time. And about 6 out of 8 passed. I was motivated. I said, wow, if 6 can pass, that's a good thing. Before I knew it, I had 200 students in my class. 200, not 100, 200.
Yeah, university on your own.
200. Me alone, 200.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, university on your own.
Yeah.
You're an institution on your own.
I've managed to pull that. There are very few schools in this country, but I managed to have 200 people, 200 students. So because I had some aspirations, I said, you know what, if I can just make even half of who I have pass, that would be nice. I have 8 people, 21 people. Before I knew it, I had 200 people. So aspiration gives you hope. So have some aspirations. That it's okay. You have to have base. There should be a base of what I remember saying. Don't just because some people say dream big, then you begin to dream about owning a plane. What do you have?
You have to start somewhere. Expectations give you a starting point. Aspirations give you a goal. So aspirations give you hope. Expectations give you an entry. Okay. So you want both an entry so you can work up to your hope. That's what we're saying. We're not saying don't have aspirations. I'm saying have both. So that when you're sitting down, I always say, what is the baseline for an okay day? I always say this, like we sit down, we have sales meeting, we say, what is okay? Okay. Okay is we'll do 20,000. Okay. Now, what is wonderful? Wonderful is 100,000. So let's aim for wonderful, but we'll do okay. All right. So now let's get quickly to the rest of this. Quickly, we'll wind up this. The third one is the second thing, and I'm just going to read through them so that we can wind up here for the purpose of time, is cult-like cultures. You often see big, strong brands have got very strong cultures. A culture is not just a habit, but it forms your way of life. They also experiment a lot. Visionary companies do plan, but they best move where they experiment. They do trial and error. And what they do is they discover things. They discover things along the way. So try things. And I'm gonna sit the fourth one I'll say is they're never comfortable. They experiment because they're never comfortable with the way things are. They always believe that something could be better. Coca-Cola is always trying to improve products. Trade Kings is always trying to add new things. Zambeef always try and improve. Everyone's trying to improve all the time because they realize that it can never be. So these are 3 other ones, but the one that's really important is they found, and I'm going to read this one. Collins and Parrow found that in 1700, in 1,700 years of combined history of visionary companies, there were only 4 cases outside of an outside being brought into the role of the CEO. Only 4 cases in the 1,700 years of visionary companies have you found that an outsider is brought in to be CEO. Visionary companies were 6 times more likely to promote an insider who was already there to become chief executive. Promotion from within preserves the core and provides continuity in leadership. Okay? And therefore, it explains that's what's called the continuity loop. And that can be used to effectively preserve the core values and sustain the progress on a simple plan. One of the reasons Zambia as a country has failed to develop, sorry, Shadrach, I think the Dark Knight has met you. This is just one of
can you believe that?
One of the reasons Zambia has failed to develop is because we have failed to have continuous development. One of the things you'll notice about China is that the consistent handover of internal uplifting. China's got an internal system of getting people to the next stage. Because of that, China has developed. So if you want to have sustained development, you need to make sure that you're on a consistent path and promoting from within. So if you're promoting your children who promote their children, then you can be like that Congo Gumi company, which has been around for 1,444 years. If you promote from within, by the way, for Walmart is the biggest retail company in the world. In fact, it's one of the biggest companies in the world. The guy who's the CEO of Walmart now used to pack boxes. He used to be one of the boxing boys there who used to pack boxes on weekends. Then he worked. So, Walmart is the only company he's ever worked for. He's never worked for any other company than Walmart. Satya Nadella, who's the CEO of Microsoft, has worked his way through it. So very few visionary companies. Even the CEO of Zambeef now, what was she before? She was the finance director since 2018. Now she's become since 2019, sorry. Now she's become the CEO of Zambeef 3 years later.
Yeah.
So they hired her from within. Yes, they brought her as an FD, but they pulled her up, and she has been getting hired from within places she's worked. And if you look at many of these companies, the new CEOs are often brought up. That's your visionary company. So if you want to build something to last, so that's something Shadrach was talking about. And for the purpose, I think, of winding up, I'm just going to give a quick summary of the four philosophies. And Shadrach, you can give your final comments afterwards. The four philosophies are: design the business. Business design is what creates sustainability. Have a win-win mentality with employees, employers, government, everyone. Employees, customers, everyone. Think beyond your profits. If your aspirations are only for profit and for lifestyle, you will not last longer than your life as the business. Preserve your core values, but progress your means. Okay, stick to your why, but change your how. Be adaptable with the how. Be flexible with the how. And then the main thing is have aspirational goals. Have a strong culture. Culture helps you really push with things. Experiment and try new things. Throw away what doesn't work and keep what works. Never be okay with comfort. And finally, promote from within. Create talent management so that the next leadership comes from the people who are already there than always having to bring people from outside. This is how Zambian companies will go from a good guy who gets very rich, dies, and it vanishes, to intergenerational Zambian businesses that will now build wealth. Because once we have intergenerational handover of businesses, that's where the true value of a country starts to happen, and we start to see it. Just to give you a quick example, even in China, that sneaker company that's competing with Nike, the father ran the business, the two sons are now running the business, and now they're competing with Nike. They went from producing generic sneakers to now being the strongest competition to Nike in the Chinese market. So that's my view, guys, on how we can do it. Please read the book, Built to Last. It is what we have referenced today. We've also given you a sales book here, which we also recommended for people to understand their product and their needs.
Yeah.
This is 7 steps to better sales results. I'm reading it right now, and I've even been writing about it on my page each time. And the various books, people, the books you read are going to determine the way you think. The books you read. So Shadrach is he's going to give you his book list as well. But
I have books I'm reading right now, guys.
Yeah.
See, I'm reading these books, and I've read all these books to see. Right now, I'm reading this one here. I'm reading this book by Mr. Tsegwe. It's a very good book. This is my current read right now. It's what I'm reading right now. It's a very good book. I've read Susan's book over 3 times, guys. It's a fantastic book. Read it, please. We'll be happy if you did. And just to say something, if you want to build a business that lasts, can we please normalize appreciating those that are managing the business which are left to them by their parents? If you talk ill about people who are managing businesses which are left to them by their parents, it will be difficult for you to leave your businesses to your children, because you hate people who have something that parents left for them to manage. Think of it this way. Would you be happy if you one day you woke up and discover your dad had given all his business to your neighbor's children? Would you be happy? You'll be so sad. So please, let's normalize appreciating those who are doing the best they can to maintain the legacy that their fathers left for them. Right? And I'll give you a good example of Mr. Chitambala Mwewa. He's been criticized by people who need his help. You can go and sit down with this man and ask him, how have you managed to survive? How did you handle family pressure? How did you handle A, B, C, D? Give me some advice. But what do? You laugh at him. He's comfortable. You can laugh all you like. But this man is managing something and is building something bigger than himself. And his children will do the same, and those to come. So can we stop the hate? If somebody's father did something to them, it's not their fault that yours didn't do or didn't leave anything for you. Right?
Change your family
It's not
tree.
their fault.
Learn how to do
fault.
it and change your family tree yourself.
So
that's what I'll tell you.
Don't take the anger that you have about your dad for just dying or leaving anything for you to people whose parents left some things for them. There's nothing wrong. You are working hard. If you die today, you want your son, you want your daughter to enjoy your hard work, not your neighbor's children. So let's stop the hate, guys. That will help us to build businesses that stand the test of time. Thank you, Mnyumba. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you to everyone. Please write your biggest takeaways from today. Please give us a few things. What can you do? What have you learned that you can implement in your business that can make it a lasting business? And what can you start today? All right. What are you things that you place to start today? We don't want people to just do things, to just say things. We'd like us to all implement. The things we're talking about here are things we are doing ourselves. And more than anything, I'd like as many people, I'm reading Purpose Driven Life as well as I read this. Every night before I go to sleep, I read Sales and I read Purpose Driven Life. And I read it again because that's an important book that tells me have an eternal perspective of life. Have an eternal perspective, because this is me as a believer. Have an eternal perspective. It helps you put a lot of things in the right perspective to build the best that you can here, because you're trying to build something that's beyond this, but have an eternal perspective. And you'll think impact, you'll think people. Profit will be there, but it won't always be the most important thing, because you're thinking about a world or a life beyond profit itself. I wish you all the best. I wish you all a wonderful week. Shadrach, God bless. To everybody who has been with us, God bless to all of you. And I pray God fulfills you. He expands you. He grows your businesses, and may He shine His light all over you and give you all the favor in the world that you need. And may He guide you to things that you need to grow. God bless this country, and have a wonderful day. And season's greetings, people. I'm getting ready for Christmas. Have a wonderful time, people. God bless.
All right, guys. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.